Father by Nim P. Pseudo. Chapter 8, Part 1. A curtain of sparks veiled my sight. A squeal of clashing blades stifled my hearing. For an instant, all sense was stolen from me, and though I remained motionless, awaiting the death that Dryas had ordained, it did not come. The sparks faded, the squeal receded, and I yet lived. The canyon was still before me, impenetrable beneath its fog-leaf shroud, those bloated creatures floating listlessly over its spires. It was quiet. Even the pervasive wind had slacked in its moaning. Only a metallic grinding persisted, directly behind my neck. "You would dare raise your claws to me?" Dryas asked, half a snarl and half a whisper. "Please, fierce knight," Ogrim cried. "Stay your nail! Has the affliction's madness clouded your eyes?" Feet scraped against stone, weight shifted, and a nail rasped down the length of a claw. I could not turn, not even the slightest shift of my head. The burden of command held me still, as if I were entombed within a block of stone. "If madness claims anyone, then it is you. The lady's decree is to see this thing destroyed, and yet you impede that." "But why?" Ogrim gasped. "I beseech an answer. Why must the little knight perish?" "Vessels are not meant to possess minds. It is contrary to their purpose." "Is this because of that nymph hopper? Was skewering it so terrible an offense?" "Amongst the king's constructs, consciousness is a threat. In these vessels most of all. I will eliminate that threat. Now, lower your claws and stand aside, or you will soon rue your actions." Ogrim began to pant. "But Hallownest is a land of enlightenment. A mind is a noble thing, a goodly thing. You would slay the little knight for having one of its own?" "For the last time, yes! Curse the king and his secrets. If you vow to cease this interference, then I will reveal the truth." The friction of claws and nail heightened. "A cruel offer. You would have me barter the little knight's life for a few tread secrets?" "Fine then," Dryas said. "Wallow in ignorance if it suits you, so long as you step aside." There was a crackling, a groan of tormented metal. Ogrim loosed a pained growl. "I will not. I cannot allow such unrighteousness." "What notion do you have of righteousness?" Dryas bellowed. "You are but an infant." "Perhaps," Ogrim bellowed back. "But I am bound by a duty I cannot forsake." He heaved, and there was a stumble of steps. "I tell you again that I will not allow this." There was an icy span of seconds, and the heat of debate drained from Dryas' voice. "Very well. Then ready your claws. You have passed beyond clemency." "To me, little knight," Ogrim whispered. "Remain close. I will shield you." The impalpable tomb of Dryas' last command crumbled away, and movement was restored to me. Ogrim's order took hold, and I darted to his side. Gouges and scattered chips of metal like chitin marred the spot where the two knights had locked blades. Dryas stood several paces away from me, her weapon held out before her and leveled at me. Ogrim extended his arm to separate us. The claw upon it had lost its glass-smooth edge and was now covered in nicks and dotted with spider-web fractures. It tremored as Ogrim raised his voice. "This battle need not be, Dryas. If it is truly the lady's will, the king's will, that this little knight be," he swallowed, "done away with, then I will hear it from them. Let us return to the city, all of us." "I already speak for the lady. Her verdict would be no different, and that king is as blind now as ever. Delusion would conceal any flaw that he might perceive in his pure vessel." She shifted her stance to face Ogrim. "No, I will administer judgment here, to it, and to you." Ogrim took a breath, but before he could retort, Dryas struck. She moved as if the weight of the world meant nothing. Her slender legs closed the distance in a single bound, and with both claws she lifted her long nail over her head. But Ogrim reacted, far faster than he was like to do. Before Dryas' blade could bisect him, he crossed his claws to catch it. There was a booming concussion, like the dying toll of a great bell. 2 new fractures sprouted along the blades of Ogrim's claws, and he collapsed to one knee. The rock beneath cracked from the force, and a stalactite from the nearby cave mouth dislodged. Before it even shattered against the ground, Drya was in motion. She faded back and then forward, feinting strikes at Ogrim's sides, legs, and head. Ogrim parried at the phantom attacks, but did not connect with Drya's nail. A growl billowed within him, and he lunged to his feet in a sudden shift toward aggression. Like a rising spear, he extended his claws toward Drya's stomach, but again they found nothing. The fierce knight seemed almost phantasmal as she dodged out of the range of Ogrim's attack. She flicked her nail with an air of impatience. "This is no sparring match, Ogrim. I am no tutor with one claw behind my back and a shellwood nail in the other. This is a duel, and you, perhaps above all others, know of my history on this subject." "Oh yes," Ogrim said, with a groan-twisted laugh. "A sprawling legend of unbroken victory." "Yet that does not deter you," Drya said, almost sadly. "Never." Drya waded in with a fresh volley of strikes, and this time not one was a feint. They crashed against Ogrim's immobile defenses, setting his shell to rattling. Slashes rained at Ogrim's brow, and thrusts probed at his heart, but he did not move, instead catching or parrying each attack with his crossed claws. A semicircle of cuts and furrows formed in the ground at his feet, but as the count of strikes rose into the dozens, Ogrim began to crumple. Faintly at first, but soon to the point that he staggered with every hit, and barely managed to resume his stance before the next fell. I kept my place at Ogrim's side, as he had ordered. The duel raged an arm length away, and every swing of Drya's nail made my cloak flutter. Periodically she attacked me, forcing Ogrim to alter his defense. He suffered several glancing blows against his carapace to ensure that I went unharmed. Though I did not move, I began to burn with the same searing feeling that had come with Drya's command to hunt. I was under no other directive than to stand, yet the burn persisted, with some task unheard, some duty ungiven. The strong protect the weak. My grip tightened upon the nail. But with one last clang the assault ended, and the burning with it. Drya fell back to her previous spot. "Why prolong this farce?" she asked, the slightest labor in her voice. "You cracked to pieces. You cannot win." Ogrim wobbled on his feet. "I fight not that I might triumph before you, but that I might not fail before myself." "You will die," Drya observed. "Is there any greater failure?" Another pained laugh from Ogrim. "We have never shared this many words, you and I. It did not occur to me how different we could be." "This grows distasteful. You would do well to lay down and feign death. Perhaps I might overlook you after the vessel has been disposed of." "You know that I cannot," Ogrim whispered. "I would sooner slay myself." Drya made a petite noise, something like surprise. "The wisdom of my years fails me too often," she said. "What?" "Vessel!" Drya shouted. She did not even look at me, but I felt her hooks coiling. "Destroy yourself!" The hooks sprang. They wrapped my body and burrowed into my limbs, again making of me a marionette. With a deft twist, the short nail inverted in my grip, and both my arms lifted the sheening point to my chest. Liquid shadow beaded as the tip pressed into my body, but I felt no pain, merely a chill as if from a lonely gust. My arms tensed, preparing to drive the blade deeper, to rend whatever vital spark I had and return me to nothing. "Stop!" Ogrim wheeled to face me. "You must not do such a thing!" The nail slackened. "Destroy yourself, vessel!" Drya repeated. "I command it!" There was a sick crunch. A flurry of opaque bubbles gushed from my chest. I collapsed to my knees, but oblivion did not take me. I readied to strike again. "I said stop!" Ogrim screamed, this time with such violence that his voice tore. "You are never to slay yourself, little knight, do you understand? Never!" The hooks unwound. My arms fell limp at my sides. Drya rose to a booming echo that transcended even Ogrim. "You will obey, Vessel! Destroy yourself, now!" But I did not. Though I felt the order upon my shell, it held no authority. It was as if some inviolable barrier diverted the frothing river of Drya's will. Ogrim knelt beside me and grasped the nail's hilt between his mangled claws. He extracted it from my chest with a tug and tossed it to the ground. The shadow-smeared blade skidded across the stone, catching on a protruding pebble and skipping off the cliff's edge into the canyon below. Ogrim held his arms about me in a defensive circle, yet seemed uncertain how to react to the thin flow of darkness that percolated from my chest and wafted through the air. "Again it proves its dysfunction," Drya muttered. "The new order did not erase the last. Somehow this vessel retained it." Ogrim whipped about, snarling. "Too far, Drya. Too far. You skirt the precipice of dishonor. Has all sense of chivalry rotted within you?" "Chivalry," she said, as if tasting it. "You will find that word grows fatuous with time's passage. But no, not quite. If that were so, then you would have died the moment that you turned your back." It took a great effort for Ogrim to rise. He propped himself to his feet with the tips of his claws. Like Geo from a torn pouch, chitin tumbled from his claws. "Shall we continue?" "Enough of this," Drya snapped. "Yield. This contest is done. You have not the right nor the power to continue." "I am not defeated," Ogrim slurred. Drya shook her head and raised her nail. "Do you intend to make of me a butcher?" "No, fierce knight. The opposite. I will save you from that end." Fool. In 3 stomping steps, Drya was upon Ogrim once again. She planted her feet and swung her nail in an arc at his torso. The attack was far slower than any she had yet loosed, but it seemed infused with every scrap of her strength. Ogrim attempted to dodge, but the movement was little more than a lurch. At the last instant, he raised his claws to shield himself, but they did nothing. The nail's impact pitched him to the ground, with such force that his shell cracked. "Stay down," Drya said. She spun about and raised her nail to me, preparing to bury it to the hilt into my mask. She snatched a breath, and the blade descended. But up shot Ogrim, beyond pain, beyond fatigue. He wrapped Drya from behind with his broken claws, catching her bent arms and pressing them tight to her chest. The nail jolted from Drya's grip and dinned against a rock. Ogrim arched his back, lifting Drya's tall form and stealing her purchase of the ground. "You will not!" he cried, with words wet and tortured. "So long as I live, you will not slay this one." Drya struggled and twisted, but Ogrim's claws were locked like a pair of manacles. "Vessel!" Drya shrieked. "Hurl yourself into the canyon! Seek out the greatest beast within so that it might devour you!" The command flooded over me, circumventing whatever barrier might have been. I faltered up from my knees and took a half-step about in the direction of the cliff. "No!" Ogrim yelled. "Stop! You must!" But Drya flung her head back to slam Ogrim full in the face. She wrenched her body to the side and lashed out with an elbow at Ogrim's temple. The grapple broke, and Drya stumbled free of Ogrim's arms. "Do as I commanded," Drya said, before turning around and clenching her claw into a bludgeon. Ogrim was already drawing a breath to interdict, but it was lost as Drya punched him in the eye. He bellowed in pain and reeled back. "Go!" Drya thundered. The word slammed against me like the butt of a lance. My feet lost the ground, and I found myself hurtling into the canyon. Ogrim screamed something after me, but the growing distance obliterated the meaning.